Welcome back to Movement Matters. This is the video introduction for lesson number 2. And lesson number 2 in Movement Matters is going to be able to show us the thinking, the belief system, and a little bit of the story of the Restoration Movement. So there's some high view content that is included in here. Now, as we start into looking at the beliefs that are critical and the aspects of the story that are critical, we're going to try to understand a view that might help explain why they are so critical in the Restoration Movement. For me, that is exemplified. Remember, I said I like me some visual aids. This is a T-square, and actually this isn't a full T-square. I guess it's a L square or perhaps a 7 square if you do it. I'm familiar with construction. Like I'm pretty handy, but I don't know exactly what this thing is called. Okay, but here's the deal. Why do you have one of these tools? Now, there are measurements on the side, that's important, but the most important thing to a tool like this is that it actually figures out perfectly the right angle. And in construction, right angles are very important because that keeps things straight and aligned. So if you're constructing something and it is not squared, if it's crooked, it is incorrect. So what we're looking at are right angles. And when you think about what is right, that is basically the impetus for why the Restoration Movement existed. When it started at a time, there was a bunch of people trying to determine what it meant for it to be right. And that was right in two different things. Two $5 theological terms I like to tell people about. The first one is orthodoxy. And ortho means right. And etymologically, you're looking at right, correct, even the right angle, right? That's what makes something solid. Orthodoxy is right thought. In Christian orthodoxy, that is right belief. That's how we're being faithful to the Word of God. But there's also orthopraxy. In orthopraxy, maybe you can see in praxis, it's the practice. It's right practice. So you have two different ideas that the founding fathers of the movement were tracing. They were chasing orthodoxy, they were chasing orthopraxy. But what happens is, as those set up a pole, we sometimes like to gravitate toward either end of the pole. Sometimes we're more about listening and teaching and articulating theology to the T, or sometimes we believe that theology can prohibit us from actually doing the work of the gospel. So right thought, right practice. I know some of you, that is a bothersome concept because you're like, well, can't you have both? And spoiler alert, that's what we're trying to pursue in this lesson. We're trying to show how people in the Restoration Movement have tried to live out the best of both orthodoxy and orthopraxy. And I would offer that exists in the middle ground within the balance. And that's the toughest thing that we as believers have to do in our life, is to figure out how to balance out our obedience to the Word of God and how we live that out so that neither adversely influence the other. And that's why it's so critical that we look to the Scriptures, we gather in Christian community, and we see what other Christians are doing in the broader church to make sure that we are on the right path. And I would offer to you is that has been the journey of the Restoration Movement. Our desire to be faithful is why the force of faithfulness is so important in the Restoration Movement. Enjoy this lesson of study as you learn about what it means to be faithful.